You're listening to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will introduce you to a wealth of interesting, fascinating individuals from all walks of life who will share their stories, how they've overcome challenges, and you will find out their top tips for success. Through this podcast, you can gain tips to grow and change your life and the way you see the world, and help you to nurture your zest. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Nurture Your Zest. My name is Ashleigh King, and I am the host of this live stream. This is also a podcast that we share through YouTube and various different social media and podcasting channels. Tonight, I am very excited to be speaking to Dominic. Dominic is an author, a musician, a music producer. He is very multi-talented. We've met through mutual friends, Martin Hilton, Hanaviel Sanders, and some other creatives in the community in the northeast of England. And it's just great to always get to know somebody a little bit better. So I'm delighted to introduce Dominic to you today, and I'll add him to the stream now. Hi, Dom, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm all good.
Good. Well, it's so nice to see you. So you're looking very stripy today, which is good.
Thank you.
And you have been very busy today, haven't you? So the last few weeks and just everything going on. I know you mentioned you've been speaking to the BBC earlier today, and you were on a different show last night. So you've had quite a lot of stuff going on despite it being lockdown.
Well, actually, you've got to keep busy. You have to keep busy because, there's always positives and negative things that happen in life. And one of the things I try and do is be ready. So, the lockdown happened and it was a shock to the system. So, a lot of the things that I was doing and had planned got shut down. So the lockdown happened mid-March. And I was at the BBC. I planned to record my first show. No, my second show. And that was all in place. Everything was good to go. And then the day before the show was supposed to start recording, the lockdown happened. So that got put on ice. And like a few other projects I was involved in got shut down, which on one hand you go, okay, that is really bad. What am I going to do? But on the other hand, I'm a black person who works in the creative industries. I have a certain level of preparation. As being a creative person, you go from project to project. There's ups and there's downs. And then you add the factor on top of that as being, a black person, things can be a bit tricky from employment in that side of things anyway. So there's a certain level of preparation I had already done. So when things hit, there's a certain amount of mental adjustment that had to be made. But other than that, life carried on as normal. And so as I was speaking to a friend of mine, a writer called Jacob Ross, he won the Jalak Prize for his crime novel, Bone Readers. He's kind of well known right now. We had a discussion. He was basically saying, yeah, we're kind of black creatives that we're always ready for this kind of thing. That's it. That's just the truth. You have to be ready.
And having that extra cash, extra buffer for these instances, it sounds like that's been really important. And with the lockdown and everything that's happened, I know there has been some funding released from Arts Council England, other government streams. Have you been able to be supported in any of those ways?
Well, as an individual, no, but there's a social enterprise that I'm a part of that did get a little bit. So that has tidied things, that's helped out a little bit. But, everybody has been hit hard by the lockdown. Not going to lie. It's hit everybody. We could get into that the government could have done things better, but on a lot of creative people I've spoken to, it's like pow, bang. For some of them, it's been a knockout blow. In fact, I know one person, he's just packed in the whole creative thing. He's a lighting guy. He does lights for festivals, and he's just going like, he can't see himself working again in that arena. So he's just gone, right, I'm selling my flat. I'm out. I'm going to downsize. I'm going to move to out of Scotland where I can live a life on a smaller budget, and my career that I've invested the last 20 years in it's a done thing. It's gone. It's done. So yeah,
Wow.
it hits everybody differently, you know, but everybody has been affected to some degree. No, I don't know anybody who's come out of this and gone like, oh yeah, wow, lockdown, it's been a boost for me. No one. It's hit everybody.
Exactly, and especially in our circles, you know, we are all usually doing music festivals or out and about doing events and gigs, and the whole industry that we surround ourselves in has had a big impact. So yeah, it's interesting to hear what you're saying there. Have you been working through lockdown? Is there anything you've been able to do from home or projects you've been able to contribute to?
Well, I'm a writer, so I'm quite used to being by myself in my own space, getting on with my own thing. So I have been very productive in that side of things. I'm currently editing an anthology of BME writers based in the North East. So I'm working on that. I'm hoping to get that wrapped up by early July. I've written a science fiction story for a science fiction anthology. I've been working on another poetry collection, which I've just wrapped up, and also I've just finished a crime novel, a Black British crime novel. So that's taken me a long time, but this was the lockdown. I managed to get it wrapped up, send it to my editor, and it's all looking good for that. So yeah, that's you've got to keep busy from a mental health point of view, if nothing else. You've got to keep busy. You've got to stay focused. You've got to have things, because if you just spend all day watching the news, it can do your head in. You know, because you just watch this information coming at you left, right, and centre, backwards and forwards, and there's nothing you can do about it. You watch Boris Johnson chatting his nonsense, and they do what they do, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to look after yourself, protect yourself, and stay focused, and do things that are gonna keep you strong mentally, physically, and spiritually. That's it.
Absolutely, and I think you're right about the news thing. We have to protect ourselves, how much news we expose ourselves to, because you don't always know what you're seeing hasn't been spin. I mean, if you look at some of the pictures of things going on in the States, the protests, and then you see the real pictures, or you see what they are doing to some of the reporters trying to get the message out. It's pretty scary how news is distorted sometimes, right?
Yeah, but as Black people, we're used to this. We're used to this. This is not news. We know it's going to be. We know they're going to put a spin on it. We know that. That is not news to the table. So when they say things like they show the pictures of how many they say there's so many protesters there. Then you see the pictures and it was bigger than that. And then they'll say like, okay, we had there were 27 police injuries. Right, and then you go like, oh, actually, when you look further into the detail, they go, actually, on the day of those protests, there was 14, but like 13 happened on a different day and at different events. So they and then they show a picture of one horse. So and then all the pictures. Then there's a little trouble afterwards. Okay, but my opinion is, for all the things that have been going on, there was. The amount of trouble there actually was minimal. Worst thing that happened was that a statue in Bristol got torn down and thrown into the sea. And people going like, oh, don't deface public statues, don't deface public property. But really, if you look about, what's been going on, and this is the point that people are kicking off, and that's all that happened, really. That's compared to what could have happened. That's mild. So no one's actually going like, do you know what? Under the circumstances, what's happened? Break it, throwing a statue, which they should have taken it down a long time anyway. People aren't going like, oh right, that's all that happened. That's an angle that I think people would be talking about. Like, you know what? Actually, people, BME community, they could have really, really gone to town on this one. They could have really kicked off. But all things being considered, the amount of disruption there was quite minimal under the circumstances. That's just my opinion.
Absolutely. I think it's an important point you've mentioned there about the statues, or just generally in the UK, Black British history. I've been educating myself on this since around 2017, and I've been genuinely shocked by some of the things I've read, particularly David Olusoga. I
Oh
had
yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
idea of the history of the slave trade, the cotton trade, these kinds of things, and the impact in the UK history and the involvement of England as an empire, the British Empire throughout the world. It's really knocked me sideways looking into this. But also the fact that there are Black Romans, there are Black Tudors, there is so many instances when I've looked through at these historical records of Black people in England. So why is it that people think that this is the new thing? This is within the last 100 years, because it's not.
Well, it's basically, it's a brand thing and it's a marketing thing. I mean, if you think about it, how big is England and where is England? England, United Kingdom, is in the outreaches of Europe geographically. It's quite small, yet it's one of the richest countries in the world. If it was purely down to what the UK has in terms of resources, and it's in the UK, as in, okay, there's a little bit of oil there, there's a little bit of fish there. It's great for growing wheat in Scotland. Hertfordshire is quite, if you want to grow some stuff, it's all right. We've got some area to grow strawberries, but that's it really. But how can you be this small and be one of the richest countries in the world? You must have done something at some time to get that kind of cash together and to continually have that kind of status. Yeah? Must have done something.
Mm.
And so there's been Black people in the UK contributing for a long period of time. But it's well known that, you go to schools, and I've been into a lot of schools because, I used to be a college tutor, college lecturer, and I've been a careers advisor for over 20 years. So I've been into all the schools in the Teesside area, and the education curriculum is a case of like, okay, when it comes to history, okay, we're going to do Black history, we're going to do Martin Luther King, civil rights, and we're going to do slavery. That's it. That's it, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable listening. If you actually go into the real thing, what happened and what really happened to people, slavery was abolished because a certain number of people kicked up a fuss and it was no longer profitable. It was, places like Jamaica, etc., they kicked up so much a fuss, took up arms, etc. It was no longer, the juice was no longer worth the squeeze. That's what happened. And so, there's a long history of resistance and Black people contributing to the UK. But if the truth was out there, then then more Black people would know what was going on, and then the system would change. And in whose interest is it for Black people to their contribution to be fully recognized? In whose interest is it? It's not in the status quo, because then the status quo will change. And if you're at the top of the status quo, you're comfortable. You don't want to change. There's no way that Boris Johnson wants to change anything. There's no way, because if you think about it, right, all the things that he's done, how many jobs has he been sacked from? As somebody told me, they said, like, if he was a Black person, even the first thing, he would not even get a job at Burger King. No chance. No chance. For all the shady things he's done. He's like, when he was a journalist, he made things up. Oh, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the status quo wants to stay as it is.
Absolutely. Well, to be somebody in a position of power like he is, and, there's so much I could say about him, and I'm not necessarily going to, but I think just the way he speaks or has spoken about people of color and communities of color, and I don't just mean the Black community, some of the things he said about Muslim women. I feel, how can we have someone as an example for the rest of our country, to be speaking about people and, British citizens in that way? It's disgusting. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting point what you've said there about jobs, and this is something in the reading I've done to try and understand race relations more. It's something that comes up regularly, this idea of Black excellence. having to be
Oh yeah.
perfect all the time, because if you put one foot wrong or one step
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
the ramifications are just
Yeah.
really, really difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be as a bare minimum. You have to be better than the best. You have to be better than the best, because you do not get a second chance. Other people will get a second chance, but if you're from BME community, the facts is the facts. You will not get a second chance. So you have to, it's mentally exhausting for starters, because you have to second guess every move. Apart from being better than the best, you then have to second guess your moves in the workplace. So, which is mentally exhausting. Which you think that that's extra work, whilst your work colleagues are just doing the job, and that's hard enough. And then you as from the BME community, not only have you got to be better, you can't be at the same level. You can be better than the best, and then have to second guess every move you're making and every interaction, and how is it going to be perceived. And then you do all that and you still get passed over by people who are not as good as you. You know what I mean?
That's a really interesting point. I see Debbie's left us a message to say hi, Dom. And yes, the internet has been in and out for us. So I guess that's one of the challenges of us live streaming at 7 when everyone's watching Netflix.
Well, that's a way, but we're going to get it recorded. It's going to go online. So yeah. So you want people, hopefully this content is strong enough and people want to come back to it again and again and again and analyze every little section. Yeah.
Exactly. But I love what you're saying there. I think it's very true. And I think it's sad as well that there is this extreme pressure on communities to do that. And I know you've been around the block a lot. So you can say, in your work roles now, in your roles on boards or as a social entrepreneur, you have that power inside yourself to say, hey, this is not cool, I'm going to take a stand on it. But what about those in very young creatives starting out who are Black and who maybe are wanting to go for it and do stuff, but they feel they have to take every step carefully and be cautious? Have you experienced this, and what's it?
Okay, yeah, all right. So let me break it down. First things first, right? Everybody has a purpose before people have their opinions. So first of all, somebody who's in the creative field has to work on the fact that they are confident in doing what they do. Because excelling in anything, first of all, you've got to be passionate about it. And then also it takes a lot of work, because you've got to have passion, and then you might have some skills, but you've got to develop the craft. So that takes a lot of work. So you've got to be sure within yourself that that is what you want to do. You've got to strip away the opinions of other people. Like, you've got to go into a quiet room, have a real think about it and go like, right, is this what I really want to do deep down? Right. So that's the first thing. Then secondly, what I always tell people is to work on their personal brand. And I'm not necessarily meaning like you get a lot of photographs. Okay, what do you stand for? What is your own personal mission statement? Now, like my own personal mission statement, my whole purpose is to empower people and make somebody's lives, anybody I meet, I want their lives to be better from meeting me. So that's got nothing to do with like, okay, if they're at point A, I want them to get to point Z. And that's got nothing to do with like, if I get paid for it or not paid for it. Whether they're at a higher level than me at the beginning and at the end, they're still higher. But I want anybody to improve from an interaction with me. So my whole purpose in life is to empower people and improve people. So that's my own personal mission statement. So that's number 2. I have a personal mission statement. What is integral to you? What is your integrity? What is your personal authenticity? So that's 2 things there. So that's your guiding principles. So that everything you do comes from a place of authenticity to you. And then when you do that, you'll know that because it's hard to second guess, but if you're coming from a place of authenticity, if you make a mistake or somebody else perceives you make a mistake, you can always go like, right, yeah, well, I was doing what I believe is right for me, and I thought about it, I meditated on it, that's right. Yeah. And then the third thing is actually about, the external thing, because the second thing I said about your own personal mission statement, that's an internal thing, which then can manifest itself because, like, you know, people notice how you walk in it differently, where you speaking is differently, etc. That's just something that will come up naturally because you have your own mission statement internally. Then the third thing is the external thing. How do you show yourself to the world? And that takes thought, because you never get a second chance to make a second impression. You know what I mean? So first impressions count. So it's like, just like if you're going for a job interview, you have to have a suit on. You know, all those kind of little things. It's okay. Like, so as soon as you step out, how are you going to look? How are you going to present yourself in the field that you are presenting yourself in? So once you do those three things, then life is easier, because then because if you don't do those things, if you're going into a workplace and then you're trying to second guess, somebody's going to say this, somebody's going to do that, that's exhausting, right? But if you step back and you've done work on yourself, okay, you know that the career or the occupation that you do is what you want to do because it's inside you. Then you have your own mission statement, your integrity. Then the third thing is like how you present yourself to the world, right? That's kind of like insurance policy. So if anything does happen, you can always lean back like, okay. And I've seen it myself. It's like, okay, things have happened and they in people's workplaces or environments, and they've done these three things that I've said, and the top brass have gone like, okay, well, person X, he has always presented himself or herself in a certain way. Everything that comes out of her mouth is da-da-da-da-da. So when we hear something contrary to that, they're going to think twice about it. But those three things that I've mentioned, there's many. The thing about those is that you protect yourself, you know, from the bombardment that comes from the outside. Because if you turn on the news, you're going to see there's you know, black people are this, black people are that, black people are doing this again. Negativity. How do you insulate yourself from that? If you do those three things, yeah, you have some protection, apart from, because it's very hard to just, you know, not have anything to do with social media, not have any interaction with the world. That's the other option. It's like, okay, do you know what? I'm gonna set up my own community. I'm gonna have no interaction with the outside world. That's the other alternative. But if you're not going to do that, if you're going to interact with the world, then okay, you've got to do those three things. There are other things you can do. You get into more little nitty gritty. You know, everybody's got their own individual things that, you know, you go into, like, okay, you might need to tweak this and tweak that. But if it's somebody and there's a limited period of time to talk to them, I'll go like, those are the three things. You go away, you work on those, get back to me, we'll talk about it. Have you worked on those three things? Then we'll take it from there. There we go.
A few things that came to mind there that while I was listening, how exhausting it must be to constantly get hit this way and that way with these kind of negative things that you could take onto yourself. But if you have that kind of shield that you're talking about, if you know who you are, what you stand for, your integrity, you know, what you want people to recognize in you, it's so much easier to navigate things, isn't it, if you've got that inner strength? But that sounds exhausting, going through those obstacles every day.
It is hard, but and especially if you're young, because you don't have the experience. You know, you're still trying to discover who you are in the first place. You know, a lot of people, did you know what you wanted to do when you were 14? No, probably not. Some people do. Some people go like, you know, I'm sure if you talk to Martin, I'm sure from the very beginning he was going like, yeah, I'm a dancer, and I'm a dancer, look at my moves. And then goes off. You know, you meet some people just go like, yeah, you've always been a dancer. You've always known you're a dancer. That's it. I don't need to talk to you about nothing because you just do what you do. There's some people, especially when I was careers advisor going into schools, they're still trying to figure themselves out. So yeah, there's a lot of preparation to do it behind the scenes. People have to do, because the alternative is not worth thinking about. You know, mental health is a big issue in the BME community. All that kind of thing. You know, people have killed themselves. People are in a bad mental spaces because they're bombarded with stuff. Because if you don't know who you are, and then every day you see something that tells you that you're worthless. Every day you turn on the news, you have no worth. You know, and you see somebody So, you know, George Floyd, you know, that video is 8.5, nearly 9 minutes. But that's not an isolated incident. Every day you could turn on the TV in America and go like, all right. There was even a video on YouTube, live stream. Man got shot in his car. Man got shot in his car. Right? And then over here in the UK, you know, if you have an interaction with the police, chances of it going well are slim. You will struggle to find a black person who has had an interaction with the police and it not be negative. Every black person I know, either themselves or somebody they've known has had a negative experience. So, okay, so the people who are supposed to police are giving you, it's a negative thing. The news is a negative thing. Social media is a negative thing. You're bombarded left, right, and center. It is exhausted. And so where are you going to find the mental strength to combat that? So, you know, that's, you're starting your day. You get up, everything's fine. You turn on the TV, bang. Social media, bang, 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 bang. I'm worthless. I'm worthless. Not respected at work for your opinions. Get passed over for a job. You know, can't get a job. Bang, 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 bang. You know, it's tiring. And then you've got to come back from that. And on top of that, you're young, so you don't know who you are anyway. You're still trying to figure things out. It's hard, which is why, you know, my thing, I tend to focus on young people. It's like, okay, because they don't necessarily have the tools yet. So it's like, yeah. So those three things is just some of the things that I do. But yeah, it is hard. And like my thing is I've got to make sure that any, you know, a lot of BME people that I meet, it's a case of like, okay, first thing is I'm asking, how you doing? No, really, how are you doing? No, yeah, let's get down to it. You know, are you okay? So like I said before, I will phone up just, you know, people I know, BME people just go like, yeah, how you doing? You okay? I saw what you were doing. That was a great thing. Nice, keep it up. I'm in your corner. You've got my number here, 24/7, anytime. That's it.
I just can't. I'm so shocked and moved just hearing what you're saying, and I just don't know what to say. I feel that must be so difficult to go through that every day. I think it's interesting it's interesting what you said about the police, because do you find this, you know, with men and women, different ages of people, you know, or is it a particular demographic of the BME population, like a particular age group, or is it everyone that you've experienced that with?
You know, it's been proven that the police are institutionally racist. You know, so that's not up for debate. They've done their reports and that's just the way it is. You know, so it's not the thing that you can go like, oh, there's a few bad ones. Like I said to before, there's some professions that you can't have a few bad ones. You can't have, like, my son's training to be a doctor. You can't have in the medical profession, oh, there's a few bad doctors. Otherwise, you can't have that. So why should you have like a few bad police? You can't have any bad police. So, you know, that's just, I personally don't think they care. They have a particular viewpoint. You might have some people who go, yeah, try and fix things from the inside. But I've seen things and I've heard things. And, you know, I've been around a long time. And I've run a couple of different been involved in a lot of social enterprises. And so my whole thing, as you know, is about empowering people. So I've done a lot of things about community cohesion. So I've involved in a lot of projects which have involved the police, right? Now, if you ask me now, would I do a project that involves the police? I will tell you categorically, not a chance, because of the things that I have seen with my own eyes, right? So, okay, let me give you an example, right? I was in Stockton High Street, right? This was about 10 years ago. And that time, my social enterprise that I was running was called Solzaf, named after my kids, Solomon and Sophia, because I want to do something that they'd be proud of, and, you know, in the Northeast. So I put a lot of years into it. It was nationally recognized, worked in over 60 schools, right? And in Stockton, sometimes I used to chill out, sit in, there's a park bench near the library. I used to chill out there, sit there. You know, in winter time, I just have a hat on, just minding my own business. Sometimes people pass and say hello. That's it. not minding my own business. There's one particular day, I was off to the library and I saw a black guy, looked like me, sitting in my spot. I just said, hi. I said, that's a good spot. I've been there myself, just chill out, just watch the world go by, say hello to people. Go, yeah, it's cool. Quiet guy. Carried on my business. I came back, right, saw him there. Then I saw a community police officer, came along, talked to him. He said, like, you have to move. He goes, why? He goes, like, there's an old lady who feels uncomfortable. He goes, like, well, I ain't done nothing wrong. I've just been sitting here, right? What then proceeded to happen, he just said, like, wasn't aggressive at all, right? He just said he couldn't see why he had to move because he hadn't done anything wrong. He was just sitting there chilling, quiet guy. Now, this guy looked like me. This could have easily been me, and I would have had the same response, right? Just say, I'm just chilling. Somebody walks by, say, all right, no problem. Minding my own business. It's a good spot. I've been there myself. The community police person phones back up. Right. Basically, what happened? This guy sitting on the park bench, he was surrounded by 5 people. Right, 5, and there's no community. Just like policemen, they got their truncheons out and they're standing over him. They're giving him grief. Okay, so going like, oh, you need this. You need to leave. You need to sign this banning order. Right, you need to sign this banning order and get out. Right, all because some old lady didn't feel comfortable with his presence in the area. Right, to cut a long story short. He signed a piece of paper and was banned from the area for 48 hours. Right? Now, what then? So I tried to talk to one of the police officers. They're just like, I'll say, okay, that guy, I didn't know him. I just saw everything that happened. I was just being polite. I was just like, okay, is there any way, is there other angles you could have done to, approach the situation? Did not want to know. Told me just go away, mind my own business. And I just thought, like, from that interaction, I know if that had been me sitting there, because he was sitting down and these 5 policemen were standing over him. So if he'd stood up, they would have just gone like, oh, you've attacked us. So he had amazingly self-fortitude to just keep calm. But he left the area. So after that, I personally thought, right, you know what? Soulsaf, community cohesion, spending my life doing that stuff. I just thought, no, I couldn't do it no more. I'm not working with the police. That's their attitude. So I shut the whole thing down. So the only reason why I've got a social enterprise now is because so many people ask me, like, Dominic, you have to do something. What you do is needed. So that's why I've got another one. And then to add to that story, I was speaking to a friend last night and I was telling him that story. And he goes like, he knows the guy that happened to. Right? He goes like, yeah, he spoke. And he said he's a really quiet guy, minding his own business. But because of that situation, he got put on an anti-terrorism list. And it's really affected his work prospects. Right? So now, let's put this into perspective. So from what you've heard about me so far, right? I've got my stuff together. I know what I'm about. I've got a mentally, I'm strong. I'm 54. I've been mentoring since I was 19. I've been in the business a long time. I understand how the mind works. I've got counseling qualifications, right? After that incident, I went home, wrote a Facebook post, effing blinding, blah, 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 say what happened, Friends of mine contacted me, said like, similar thing happened to him, right? But then he urged me to take it down because when he posted his, he then had the police come around his house, right? So I took it down, but I can honestly say to you, hand on heart, right? That incident that I saw, it traumatized me for at least 18 months, right? I was waking up, effing and blinding, just randomly in the middle of the night, right? In the middle of the night, randomly through the day, I'd be swearing. And that's what it was about. It plagued on my mind, 18 months. And now if you think about it, that was something that didn't happen to me. That's just somebody who looked like me. That's somebody who looked like, it didn't actually happen to me. I was just there and I saw it. So then imagine, right, if you knew somebody who'd been like, had interaction with the police and died. Interaction with the police and they like, your family friend, your brother, your sister, that interaction with the police and it was negative. Because you think about it, what I saw, right, that affected me for a solid 18 months. 18 months, effing and blinding. And have you heard me? And I normally think I rarely swear. you know, and it affected me 18 months. And I got my head together. So when I see people, they're getting in the streets and they're peacefully protesting, and they break a statue, and people are going like, oh, they shouldn't do that. I understand. They need to they're letting out their frustration. But put things into perspective, and that's all that's happened. You know, they haven't gone out and like, you know what, we're gonna an eye for an eye. You know, so you know, we know somebody who got killed or had a really bad interaction, so we're gonna do something just as bad. They're not doing that. So yeah, it's the way it is.
It's horrifying hearing your story there. It actually reminded me of something. I was doing a project with an RBL actually at a school in Hewitt, and it was after hours, maybe around 7 at night. We had a rehearsal with some school kids, and they were all, you know, kids from BME community who would come over from other areas of the Northeast. But it was at a school in Hewitt, a nice, pretty, very white area, you know, middle class. And actually, somebody called the cops because they saw 20 black kids playing outside. Standard. At 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, standard.
And
so
the police wouldn't speak to any of the kids. They came over to me and to another person who was white, but they wouldn't speak to anybody else. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Right. So okay, let's take this a little further then. Right. So if you're a black person and you're running that, right, you got to go like, okay, you got to second guess. So you go like, oh, all I want to do is I want to do a workshop. Then you got like, okay, risk assessment. All right, we got 20 kids, black kids, right? Okay, so do we need to tell somebody that we're going to be here so nonsense doesn't happen? Because when the police turn up, it could go a couple of different ways, which is also mentally exhausting.
Absolutely, and having to explain to the kids' parents, you know, the police were here, or but also, you know, the people organising the event were not. I wasn't organising; I just happened to be there. But the police completely disrespected them, ignored them, and came over to me. That's really interesting.
So that's like, you know, I know it sounds, what I say might sound exhausting, but it's like a belt and braces approach. What's the worst thing that could happen? Oh, well, the worst thing that happens is somebody gets, you know, police come along, somebody gets locked up, they get taken away, and it doesn't go well. So, you know, okay, so if that's the worst thing that happened, let's start it back. Let's do a risk assessment, you know, go, okay, not just the equipment, go like, okay, we got this is what we want to do. This is the external perception, right? Okay, how do we combat that? Yeah. Because the last thing you want is, you know, because to getting those kids together in the first place, you might have had parental difficulties, because some parents are going like, hey, my kids aren't going nowhere. I'm keeping them indoors. You know, you might want to do something interesting with them, but like they go like, do you know what? We don't trust anything that's going to go on outside. We want to keep our kids indoors where we know they're safe. Which is another thing, which is like, you know, okay, that limits the experience. But they keep them safe, but then they miss out on activities that could broaden their knowledge, etc. So yeah, it's a balancing act.
It's very interesting, actually. I've seen that sometimes with some communities, some black parents who maybe don't let the kids out as much, and that makes sense now. It's about
absolutely. So, you know, so if I'm doing a project, it's a case of like I cover every angle. So like I'll have, you know, okay, I'll have a chat to the kids, go like, okay, what outcomes we gonna do? What outcomes do you want individually? So there's the individual outcomes, there's the group outcomes. Then also I'll talk to the parents. I've had the parents up. I'll go like, okay. And plus also, because I've been around so long, I've got the grey hair now, you know, I have a certain status. I'm going like, okay, this is what you think. What is your perception of what's going to be happening here? Okay, well then, you know, I understand that. I hear that. I've taken that on board. And this is what we're trying to do. And this is the benefit that we're trying to give your children. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's what we hopefully go. And like, you know, you got any problems? Here's, you know, I am the person that you can contact. Because I'm the same age as the parents. But sometimes I'm a bit older. So it's like, okay, right. So I understand their concerns straight off. Because I've been there myself. I've got 2 kids. I've got one's nearly 18, one's 21. So I've been through the whole thing. You know, they, you know, thinking twice about where they're gonna go, who they're seeing, you know, what they up to, who's influencing them, what they're watching, all that kind of thing. And you know, sometimes I've gone like, I'm not too sure about that. Then I've got to think like, okay, think of it from the other perspective. Yeah.
So it's really illuminating actually to have this conversation and hear some of these things done. You mentioned mental health earlier. I'm really curious about that because I know that you've also written a book about men's mental health. So can you tell us a little bit about mental health with men specifically in the BME community? What are some of the issues that you've experienced, and you could share some of your book, and what are the connections with mental health and faith and stigma?
Well, basically, I got a book called String Theory, and there's two reasons behind it. Firstly, I live in Teesside, which has the highest incidences of young men committing suicide. Yeah, and also I know people in the Black community, BME community, who have had mental health issues, and also my cousin, when he was a teenager, he killed himself. So it's a case of like, okay, this is personal, and people have told me different people have told me different stories. So I kind of fictionalized them into a book, and I put it under different headings. So, you know, there's a section on relationships, there's a section on money, there's a section on race, and it's basically each story has an element of truth to it, but I haven't mentioned anybody's names, and it's basically how they have dealt with particular situations. So I'm a poet. I do live performances. So there's some of the poems that I read them out live, and you know, the room, you know, there's a silence in the room and there's big applause at the end. And I know they're effective. There's one called Rant, which is very effective. But yeah, so that book is String Theory. It is about male mental health and mental health in general. There's a large section on BME about, you know, from a BME angle. So yeah, and I've had people have contacted me and said it has been very useful for them. So there is issues. Mental health is a big thing anyway in society because there's a lot of anxiety. But then on top of that, there was a layer of, from being with BME, you, like I said before, you get lots of negativity thrown at you. You might have, you know, certain expectations in society, expectations from your peers, expectations from your elders. And that all kind of puts, you know, it's like a big cooking pot and they put the lid on. And how is that pressure going to express itself? Yeah, so if you've got a lot of pressure on, there has to be a valve to be released. And how is that pressure released? Are some people going to do drugs? Are some people are going to do a lot of sport, going to do a lot of exercise? People are going to find something else to be addicted to? Are they going to throw themselves into work? Or are they going to do something that is going to have a positive impact on them or a negative impact? Yeah, that's a question that everybody's under pressure. Everybody deals with it in different ways. And everybody needs a toolbox of how to deal with it because different pressures require different tools. You know, because sometimes if you had a hard day at work, you just might need to go for a run. You might need to just go for a lie down. But then, you know, if you've been, you know, sacked from your job, that's a lot of different pressure again. So you might need to deal with that in a slightly different way. So yeah, String Theory. I mean, actually, that sounded like a plug, didn't it? Yeah, buy my book. But you know, actually, during the lockdown, I did a period. Actually, I just gave it away because you know, it's like, you know, there was like mental health week. I just went like, yeah, anybody needs it, just, you know, I'll send you the ebook. Bang, done. So, but yeah, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, I'm in a position where as I said, my purpose is to improve people's lives. You know, so my thing is, if I see an area that I can't see a tool for it, I will create that tool. So String Theory is a tool. You know, it's helped some people, and like everything, you know, it works for some of the stories work for some people. Some stories just don't work for other people, and some people just really, it's just pure entertainment. But you know, that's the job of a writer: is you shine light on particular subjects and you attack it, you shine a light at it from different angles. And sometimes those angles resonate with people and sometimes they don't. So my perspective is from a black male perspective, so that has its advantages and it has its limitations.
Sorry, we've got a very long comment there. So
yeah.
It might take us a little while to read it. It's also obscured, so I'll see if I can.
Yeah. You'll have to tell me what it's about because I haven't got my reading glasses on.
That's okay. So it's just a question.
Okay.
It's a comment from someone watching, and basically they've said, I'll read it out for you, Dom. I mean this question with the greatest respect, and I'm taking on board what you're saying. I don't condone racism in any capacity. Do you think in some situations the perception is that the decisions or actions made by people are based on race? So the question is it a perception when there might be another explanation? For example, when Ash shared her story about the police, they chose to speak to her directly because they saw her as an adult in charge rather than it being about race. And regarding your previous experiences with racism, could this perception have been something to do with that? I think that's an interesting question, Dominic, because from me, I was really shocked in that situation because actually the police came straight over to me. They didn't even look around for anybody else. It was just this idea that this is white girl here, she must be in charge, because even for me, I noticed that it was uncomfortable. So I don't think that one is about being in charge, but also if you think about that, why would it automatically be a white girl in charge, right? Why wouldn't it have been one of the creatives who were there? It's an interesting question. I'm not sure what I think about that. Have you got any thoughts about that that's popped up?
Yeah, well, there's always, there's different angles of looking at every topic. Yeah? When I look at things, I try and look at things from every angle, right? So there may well be a race dimension, but then again, they might not be. But sometimes it's a case of my viewpoint is I am not prepared to take risks, which is like goes back to what I said earlier. It's like, okay, you have to second guess because the risks are if you're black and there's a situation, then it's going to impact negatively on you as a BME person, right? So you could say, yeah, okay, in some instances, is it race or isn't it race? But the bottom line is, there's on many occasions, right? If it involves a BME person, then it's going to turn out negatively for them. And so we can talk about, this incident, was it 10%, because of a race possibly, or 0 or 20%, it's a factor. And if it's a factor, you've got to be ready for it. That's it. So, that's it. I can't say it clearer than that.
Yeah, I think that one's a tough question. Thanks, Tasha, for sending it.
Nice
Debbie
one.
Debbie asked as well, what still keeps inspiring you? So you're doing this stuff, you're doing your social enterprise stuff, you're a musician.
Yeah.
You've done some gorgeous pieces for some of my favorite dancers at Gateway Studio Public, which is awesome. Shout out to them. We also have, you've written 7 books, and you said you've got 2 in the pipeline, which is amazing. Those are coming out soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on 2 now, but I got 5 on the back burner, which I haven't put out. Just like back, insurance, in case one day I wake up and I go like, do you know what? I got nothing left to write about. For which of case, like, do you know what? I got something I've already written. Let's bring that to the front.
I love it. Every good writer knows that repurposing content is so important, right?
Yeah.
Dominic, do you have any poems or anything that you can share with us tonight?
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna give me a second. I'll dig one out. Do you know what? I had it on my phone, and My phone shut down. So if you give me 2 seconds, I
That's
will
all right. You take your
log
time.
back in, log back into my phone. And okay, yeah, I've got one. And it is called, shall I do a funny one or a serious one?
Yeah. Well, it's up to you. I mean, we've got time for one. So
all right. Well, do you know what?
One from your heart.
I'll do a funny one because we've been doing serious stuff all night, right? So I'm gonna do a funny one, and this is one which is the one that got me the BBC gig, right? Because they said, tell us a funny. You got 60 seconds to tell a funny story, and I told this one, and they creased up in laughter. And from that, I got my own Christmas show on BBC Radio Tees. Right, so this one is called Black Mafiosa, and it's about my daughter. And I really can't take much credit for it because it's basically 90% of this is what she said. So it's called Black Mafiosa. If you cross me, I will cut your head off and put it in the bin. I will not cry. I am not a nasty person, but I know some people who are, and I'm going to tell them about you. You leave me no choice. You brought this upon yourself. You don't mess with a black mafiosa. You're pathetic. You know nothing. How much money do you make? You're not bringing enough mullah to the fam. If we weren't related, I wouldn't want to know you. I would literally cross over to the other side of the street. I know you're my mum, but I don't like you. Never have, never will. I don't think we can ever be friends. How about unnecessary acquaintances? When you're old, I'm not going to visit you or look after you. You are dead weight. So what if I'm 6? Nobody messes with a black mafiosa. I'm not tidying my room for anybody. So
your 6-year-old wrote that?
Yeah, well, yeah, my daughter, and she's going off to university today, and she's gonna do law, so she's gonna be a lawyer. So yeah, so she's got the steel, and I know she's gonna be very successful at that because you can see she's 6 and she's coming out with like, yeah, go, don't mess with me, don't mess.
She's got class and confidence.
That's it. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, super powerful.
So, yeah, it's awesome. Okay, Dom, we're running out of time. So the
okay.
2 things I need to ask you.
Yeah.
So I need to know, how can people find you online? Where can they find out about your books, about your music? Where do you like to hang out?
Okay, so you can find, I've got a website called djpnelsonashley.com. The thing about my name is very individual. If you type Dominic JP Nelson Ashley into Google, you will find me because there's only one person with that name in the world, and that's me. You know, so yeah, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I don't really do it because my thing is about words, not pictures. Got my own website, but yeah, you can find me. Send me a message. I'll have a chat. I'm always open to having a conversation.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I have found the link, so I will share that
nice.
after the show. It's .blog, is that right?
Yeah.
.blog. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
And then the favorite question that I love to ask everyone on this show is how do you like to nurture your zest, Dom?
Well, the thing about nurturing my zest, different things nurture on different days. So I'll wake up. Well, I've got different strategies. So first thing I'll do, I'll wake up and I'll go like, right, I'll write 10 things that I'm thankful for. Pow, straight off. So that clears out the mind. Any negativity, if I wake up in a negative vibe, which is rare, but it does happen, I'll go like, okay, write down 10 things that I'm thankful for. That just gets me going right. And then also, you just look out and about. There's some great people doing fantastic things. You know, like Martin. You know Martin. Wow. Just check out what he's doing. It's like, wow. Oh my gosh. Levels. The man's got levels, man. So, you know, just seeing what great things that people are doing. Yeah. And also just remind myself what my purpose is. Because sometimes I forget. So on my phone, I got a picture and it just says you had a purpose before people had opinions. Then also on my computer, I've got a picture of my kids because, you know, They motivate me. That's it. And there's more. I've got about 20 different things depending on different days, because sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. So just go like, okay, writing 10 things, it's not working. Sometimes I'll listen to a particular tune, like, I'll listen to a Kano rap lyric. Kano did a rap, Fire in the Booth. It's 15 minutes. And, I listen to that, and every time I listen to it, it's just like, wow, it just gets me, I find it life affirming, so, and sometimes it's just a case of, I'm down, I'll check an email, I'll get a message from somebody I've helped, and they just go like, yeah, thanks. That'll lift me up. Yeah, it's just the little things. Just sometimes it's about the small victories. Sometimes it's just about the small victories. Just remember, like, okay. And sometimes it's about things that no one can see. Like, I remember I worked in Hartlepool Pupil Referral Unit, and I was there for like 6 weeks. And at the beginning of the session, first day, there was a young girl, and she had her back to me, and she was looking at the wall. And by the end of the 6 weeks, she was next to me on the computer making a tune. So just remembering things like that, was like, yeah, nobody saw that. Nobody saw that. So I just said, it's like hard to reach kids. And so those like small classes. So yeah, just remembering sometimes things, okay, that was a small victory. And that's all you got to do. You go like, okay, that's a little victory. That's a little victory. That's a little victory. That's a life affirming thing. That's a life affirming thing. That boosts you up. Da, 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 da. So yeah, I can't just go one thing, because different days you wake up and just go like, today, the usual thing isn't working. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you've got a range of things to pull out of your toolbox, which you mentioned.
You've got to have a toolbox.
Well, since I need one word or a phrase, I'm going to go with toolbox, if that's okay with you. So
that's
use
okay.
Your toolbox to nurture your zest. Because every guest, we love to have like a little one word and their picture, and I think that one will work pretty well. It's so nice to have chatted with you. Our time has run out now, and we'll let people know how they can be in touch, but it's so nice to have had you, and thank you for joining us, Dom.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight and nurturing your zest with us. It's a crazy time in the world. There's so much going on with the lockdown, coronavirus stuff in the States. Keep yourself safe, keep yourself informed, and look after your community. And hope to see you soon in our next chat as we nurture your zest. Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to Nurture Your Zest. You can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn at Nurture Your Zest. If you've liked today, please subscribe. You can also leave us a review if you're feeling extra kind. Today's podcast has been made available through the kind sponsorship of TL Multimedia and That Branding Company. We look forward to catching up with you again soon as you learn to nurture your zest.